All right, we're back. We're off to a hop and start. And so it is now my pleasure to introduce the following session, Rethinking Syllabus Access and Availability, How Syllabus Distribution Shapes the Student Experience. In 2024, Academica examined policies and practices surrounding course syllabus content and the timing and methods of syllabus distribution in the BC post-secondary landscape. This study explored whether the timing of syllabus distribution and syllabus content has an impact on student success, satisfaction, and in turn, retention. This presentation will share some of the key findings from the research and highlight the different opportunities to enhance syllabus development and availability. And there were a few questions in the previous session about syllabus and course outline, so I think that this session is pretty relevant. Candice is standing by to take your questions. So as always, please make sure you put your questions into the chat and the question and answer. We're going to go to the recorded part of this session, and then Candice will be standing by to answer your questions. So please join me in welcoming Candice Carella, Senior Researcher from Academica Group.
Thank you so much, Mike. Hi, everyone. My name is Candice Carella, and I'm a senior researcher at Academica Group. Back in 2024 and into early 2025, my team worked on a research project that was focused on how syllabus distribution may shape the overall post-secondary student experience. Today, I'll be going through some of the key findings and takeaways from this research. I'll be going over the purpose of this project, method, and key findings from the literature review, the review of institutional policies, and interview consultation components of our project. To conclude, I'll go through some potential next steps or opportunities that institutions may consider moving forward. So, in terms of the purpose of this project, access to information and the right timing of when a course syllabus is provided to students can facilitate student success and retention at the course level or even at the institutional level. Ultimately, the timing of syllabus distribution and the syllabus content should be student-centered, as it could impact whether a student remains registered in a course. However, determining this ideal timing and syllabus structure depends on the current post-secondary landscape, institutional policies, administrative practices, and student registration behaviors. This research that we conducted assesses the policies and practice of course syllabi distribution at BC post-secondary institutions through a literature review, a review of published institutional policies and practices, and consultations with students, institutional staff, and faculty members. Previous research has focused on the design of the syllabus itself, but there hasn't been much of a focus on whether the timing at which the syllabus is distributed to students makes a difference in terms of engagement and retention. So I'm just going to go over the method for each component briefly. So to start, we conducted a literature review, and this was focused on the impact of course syllabi distribution and its content. And we took care of this component in the summer of 2024. Following the literature review, we took a look at institutional policies. So that consisted of scanning websites of BC institutions to see whether policies or recommendations existed in terms of what needs to be included in the course syllabus, and whether there is a particular time when the syllabus is distributed to students, or maybe if there's a method for distributing this document. After this, we used the findings from the literature review as well as this review of policies to form our interview guide. And the interview consultations were conducted with post-secondary staff, faculty, and students. To get a sense of what happens in practice and how these groups feel about the syllabus distribution, we chose to conduct interviews. And then following all of this, we took care of the analysis and reporting. So the findings were compiled into a written report, and the project was wrapped up by March 2025. Ultimately, we focused on what could be the right timing of when a syllabus is provided to students, and how can this timing, along with syllabus content and structure, facilitate student success in a course. So we'll go through some of the key findings from each component of the project, starting with the literature review. So So Academica completed a literature review examining research related to the influence of course syllabi on student registration behaviors, as well as student satisfaction and retention at colleges, polytechnics, and universities. Particular attention was paid to studies that focus on the student experience in North America and along with the transfer student experience where possible. So the course syllabus, based on the literature that we looked at, is the section-specific course outline that is distributed to students. This is the definition that we ended up using throughout the project. The syllabus generally includes course-specific information, such as the email address and office number of the instructor that is teaching the course, the content to be covered in class, and assignment deadlines. Much of the literature examined refers to the course syllabus as a first impression of a course or its instructor. A syllabus can provide insight into the instructor's teaching philosophy, their classroom values, and their level of dedication to the course. The tone of the syllabus, whether it be welcoming or authoritative, could affect students' feelings of confidence regarding their potential to perform well in the course. Ultimately, students' initial perceptions and impressions may determine whether they choose to register or remain registered in a course. So much of the literature focuses on the syllabus content in relation to student satisfaction and retention, that is, their likelihood of remaining in a course. Students are more likely to remain enrolled in a course when they feel their learning experience is valued. If a syllabus is learning focused or learning centered, it is engaging and question driven. Connecting learning outcomes to assignments or providing the rationales behind learning activities can allow learners to feel that their education needs are valued, thus improving their connection to a course. So, understanding the course and how it will support their future education or applications in the workplace can make a student feel more satisfied with the course and its content. For some students, this is information that they would like to have before committing to a course. So the syllabus has traditionally been regarded as a contract between the instructor and student, but it is also an important communication tool both internally within the classroom and externally across the university or even outside of the institution when it comes to transfer credit evaluations. Ultimately, the syllabus needs to make sense to those who are in the classroom and those who may receive it for transfer credit evaluation purposes or for other purposes. It is important to recognize that although it may be a syllabus for an upper year course, for example, critical information and resources such as withdrawal policies or general campus resources should be included in all syllabi regardless of the course level. New and transfer students enrolled in upper year courses may not be aware of certain details, and we shouldn't assume that all upper year courses have the same information about an institution. So institutional policies on course syllabi distribution that were published on post-secondary institutions' websites were examined as part of our review of institutional policies. The analysis focused on all post-secondary institutions in the BC transfer system, along with 10 out of province and 5 American colleges, polytechnics, and universities. In total, 50 institutional websites were scanned for policies and recommendations related to the distribution of course syllabi. In selecting the institutions, effort was made to include representation from various provinces, territories, and states, as well as institutions of varying sizes and types to ensure alignment with the institutional landscape in BC. Additionally, commonality of transferability, involvement in the BC transfer system, and the public availability of course syllabi policies were factors considered when selecting out-of-province and American institutions. So at the time of review, which would have been end of August, early September of 2024, only 19 of the 50 institutions examined had policies specific to course syllabi publicly available online. As I mentioned, it's important to note that this research was conducted in August and early September of 2024, so it is possible that institutional policies have been revised since then, or new information may be available online now. In terms of policies pertaining to syllabus availability, syllabi are not normally available to prospective students who may be looking to map out their educational journey prior to applying to post-secondary studies. Usually, it's only distributed to students who are enrolled in the course. Additionally, syllabi are not normally required to be released prior to course registration, which could impact student decision-making. However, oftentimes the syllabus isn't prepared or approved very far in advance of a course starting. As well, not all schools differentiate between the course outline and the course syllabus in their policies. For those that did differentiate between the two, the syllabus was most frequently regarded as the course-specific contract between instructor and student, which aligns with what we saw in the literature. Of the schools with information related to the timing of syllabus distribution, so that was 22 out of the 50, distributing the syllabus on the first day of class was the most common, so that was 7 of those 22. Two schools noted that syllabi may be subject to change after they are reviewed with students on the first day of class. There were also some policies about what should be included in the syllabus, including specific institutional-wide policies, add-drop deadlines for the course, and more. Some schools did not have specific policies for what needs to be included in a syllabus, but there were style and content guidelines for instructors to consider when designing their syllabus. So, following this, in-depth interviews with institutional staff, faculty, and students in BC were conducted. In total, 25 interviews were conducted via Microsoft Teams. Interview participants provided responses surrounding the availability, distribution, and content of course syllabi at their institutions. All participants received a copy of the interview guide in advance. Students were recruited via Academica's Student View panel, and institutional staff and faculty from BC institutions were invited to participate through email recruitment. So the first theme that came through for us was the syllabus as an impression of course expectations and the impressions of teaching staff. So students may look to the course syllabus to get an impression of the instructor's expectations, including workload and time commitment required, and the attitude toward the course. If the syllabus were to be provided ahead of course registration, students could use it to shop for courses and perhaps instructors. One instructor shared that within their department, instructors create a short video syllabus with the intention of assisting students in selecting electives that align with their interests. Allowing students the opportunity to select a course taught by an instructor with a teaching philosophy that aligns with their interests may result in students being more actively involved in their education. So as you can see through some of the quotes included on the slide here, students are saying that the course syllabus plays a role in their decision to stay registered in a course. It could impact their decision to drop a course. So yeah, it is important as serving as an impression of expectations. In terms of when students should receive a copy of the syllabus, it was most commonly noted by participants that syllabi should be distributed ahead of the first day of classes to support student preparedness. Faculty and instructors noted, though, that this may not be possible depending on whether the syllabus is prepared and approved far enough ahead of the first day of classes. And if I can recall some of the conversations I had with faculty, sometimes it's challenging when there's contract lecturers, for example, who might not be hired too far in advance of the course starting. So this could impact the timing of when the syllabus is actually prepared and finalized. Next, some of the participants expressed interest in the concept of co-creating the syllabus or including student preferences in a final syllabus. This process involves students in their own learning and could lead to increased satisfaction and success in a course. However, instructors and some students noted some potential issues. For example, finalizing the syllabus with students could contribute to a late release, and not every student will be pleased with the final syllabus anyway. Additionally, a more rigorous course structure or requirements may be needed for programs with specific accreditation criteria. If modifications are made to a course, its learning outcomes will need to be considered and upheld. Based on the responses received from faculty members, there is a common belief that students do not always engage with the syllabus or they don't engage as expected. Students, particularly new or international cohorts, may lack familiarity or understanding of the syllabus as a medium. In this regard, timing may be less of an issue compared to students' understanding of the importance of the syllabus itself. Participants across the three groups highlighted the benefits of instructors going through the course syllabus together with students in class. This process ensures language or course terminology is understood and provides students with the opportunity to ask questions or seek clarification before the course content is delivered. Reducing the length of the syllabus by removing information not directly related to the course or organizing the information in a way that is easier for students to digest is important. Many participants expressed that a standardized format that is followed across the institution would assist students in becoming familiar with the syllabus and, as a result, be able to navigate it more easily. Full-time students may have 4 or more syllabi to familiarize themselves with each term, so creating a syllabus that is engaging and easy to follow may support student retention and success in a course. Keeping a reliable record of historical syllabi could help previous students who may need to obtain these documents for future transfer credit assessment purposes. So we'll look quickly at some next steps and potential opportunities to consider. So overall, syllabi should ideally be accessible, engaging, inclusive, and clear. Syllabi should be updated regularly to ensure compliance with accreditation requirements or transfer credit evaluation standards that may be in place. Although there is no evidence of the ideal timing for syllabus distribution that works for everyone across the board, interview participants tended to recommend that making the syllabus more widely available and sharing it with students before classes start is valuable. Ideally, a syllabus could be made available prior to course registration to support student decision-making during the registration process. Having a centralized database or online repository that makes syllabi from previous years accessible to current students could give them a better idea of the finalized syllabus for their section of the course and what it will look like, ultimately helping them select a course that will work for them. So for example, when I was looking at institutional websites and looking at the policies they had in place, one of our out-of-province institutions, Humber Polytechnic, had a webpage publicly available on their website that explained what the syllabus was, why it's important, how it's used, and then you had the ability to search up a course name or course code and access the historical syllabi publicly online. So that's just one example. If there are privacy concerns with this sort of approach, this repository could be housed in an online portal, which could only be accessed by students, staff, and faculty, so not general members of the public. There could be avenues for making the syllabi more publicly available to support prospective students in making an informed decision before they accept their offer of admission. Publicly available syllabi or descriptions of the course activities and learning outcomes from previous years could give students an idea of what they can expect. And that's the end of my formal presentation. Thank you very much for taking the time to join today, and I look forward to any questions.
All right, and now it is my pleasure at this time to introduce Candice Carella, Senior Researcher from Academica Group, who's here to answer your questions. Welcome, Candice.
Thanks very much, Mike, and I look forward to any questions.
All right, so just as a reminder to everybody on the chat, please make sure you put your questions either into the chat or into the Q&A, and I can relay those questions to Candice. I have maybe just a first question for you, Candice, is around the overall research itself. Was there anything that you found that was surprising as you were working on this project?
Nothing too surprising. I guess the one thing I was hoping for was finding that one ideal time that would work for everyone to release the syllabus, but there are just so many variables and considerations. So I was, I guess, surprised not to find that golden timing. But other than that, I would say that the responses were not too unexpected.
All right. There's a question in here from Ernest that is around if syllabi are section specific, then should articulations be section specific? And he's asking about whether there's a template for instructors to follow and tweak with their own preferences. Did you find a number of examples where there were standard templates for syllabi?
Yes, so when I was looking at institutional websites in BC and other institutions across Canada and the US, I did find a number of teaching and learning departments, for example, that would release templates or perhaps guidelines for instructors to follow, still allowing them to maintain that academic freedom and freedom of creativity in creating their syllabus, but having, a specific template where certain information should go to help them with the order of information, for example. Also finding some style guidelines as well. So that seems to be popping up more and more across institutions.
And to your specific question, Ernest, about should articulation be section specific, it's always been the position of BC Cat that a syllabus is an instance or an example of a course, that there can be degrees of difference between sections, but that the learning outcomes should be the same, meaning that you don't articulate to a specific section. You see a course syllabus as a representation of an instance of a course. There's a question from Sarah from Columbia College who's asking, is there a difference between providing syllabi as a hard copy in addition to electronically?
Yeah, that's a great question. It wasn't a specific question as part of our interview guide, although in speaking with students, for example, a lot of them did say they prefer having both, having that handout on the first day of class, which also makes it easier to discuss with the instructor on the first day, so that way everyone has it in front of them. But then also having access to an online version is quite valuable, according to many of the students I spoke with, because we're going more and more digital, and that's students rely on their laptops a lot. So I think having both would be the preference. But again, not a specific question from our interview guide.
All right. There is a comment from Tyler Ballum from Selkirk College who mentions Chapter 2 of Catherine Denial's A Pedagogy of Kindness might be a worthy addition to the Lit Review. I don't know if you're familiar with that particular work, but that's a suggestion from Tyler from Selkirk College.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Question from Samantha from Alexander College. What was the average syllabus length in pages? And did you notice anything about syllabus length and student engagement?
I don't have an average length, unfortunately. We didn't really look into syllabi examples as closely. We were mainly just looking for the information that they contained. Length wasn't one of our main focus areas. However, based on the faculty members that I spoke with, there was a concern that students wouldn't be reading the full syllabus. So in that sense, perhaps having a shorter version would be more ideal for student engagement with the document.
Okay. Our good friend Avery Hulbert from College of the Rockies asks, did you look at the difference between course outlines and course syllabus?
Yeah, so that was one of the things when I was looking at the BC institutions as well as the American and Canadian ones that we looked at. Some of the institutions in their policies very much indicated that there's a difference between a course outline and a syllabus, and some of them considered them as one and the same. There weren't clear definitions. It seems to differ from school to school. But based on the literature review and discussions I've had, the syllabus would be the course-specific document, whereas the course outline would be like the shell of a course, essentially, that isn't specific to that instructor in that section.
Right. Lulu from Native Education College is asking if your PowerPoint will be available after this session. Yes, we will be uploading PDFs of all the presentations after JAM, so you will be able to gain access to it as well. Question from Rita Kolpak from Camosun College is asking, is there an example of a video syllabus that you can share?
So there was one faculty member who I spoke with who did indicate that on their website there is a video syllabus. The thing is, all participants are anonymous, so I don't think I can provide their institution website or their information. I could check in though with the person I interviewed to see if they're okay with revealing that information, and we can share a video example.
Yeah, if you do get that approval, please just let me know and we can add it into this the post session documents, including the presentation. That would be great. I've never heard of a video syllabus, so that would be I'd be interested in seeing that myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Avery asks again, did you look at the difference between course outlines and course syllabus and students' understanding of these documents and the institutional use of these?
So in terms of students' understanding between the two documents, we didn't look into that, unfortunately. But we did, again, when in looking at the institutional websites and what information they have available online, not very many made it clear to students the difference between the two documents. As highlighted in my presentation, I would say that Humber Polytechnic at the time really did highlight the difference between the two. And I would say their website is a great resource if that's something that you're looking to clarify for students.
Are there outlines located online, like on their website?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, great. Um, there's a question from Todd Whitcomb from UNBC. Did you get any impression from students as to why they don't read through the syllabus? According to his experience, very few students actually read the document. Did you get any insight into that?
Yeah, so it was mainly faculty members who identified that students aren't necessarily engaging with the full document. I didn't specifically ask students about that as it wasn't part of our formal interview guide. However, some of the students I spoke with just indicated that they found it confusing when the format of different syllabi for one institution were different. So for example, for their engineering course, something was organized in a certain way and they knew where to find, let's say, the room number, credit weight, etc. And then another course, that information would be at a totally different spot. So not having that standardized format can be quite challenging for students to utilize those documents. So again, going back to that standardization piece, if there's guidelines or a template to follow, that could help students so that way they're familiar in understanding how all their course information will be arranged from course to course.
I think also what you're highlighting then is that even if there is standardization, not everybody adheres to it,
Right. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
All right. Um, There is a question from Amelia Shee from College of New Caledonia. I'm wondering how many people keep their course outlines and syllabi separate.
That's a great question. I personally, unfortunately, don't have the answer to that one, but it's a good question.
All right. And then there is a comment from Jennifer Lyle from NVIT, and we'll make this one the last one. I think it could be particularly helpful for new post-secondary students, whether they're first year or directly from high school, to be able to access syllabi prior to classes beginning. It's a huge transition from high school to post-secondary, and it can be quite overwhelming to only gain access to a 14-page syllabus on the first day of class. How many of the post-secondary institutions that you surveyed provide access to syllabi prior to the start of term? And do you have a sense of how far in advance?
I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I do have my report open, so I will just quickly go to that. So based on the scan of the institutional websites, people who had course syllabi available before courses begin in BC, BCIT did on their website. And then the rest would be, I think, yeah, it would have just been BCIT that had it before classes begin, and then the rest would have first day of classes at the beginning of the term or course, or by the end of the first week of classes typically. So it doesn't seem that many have that information available earlier on. In speaking with some institutions in Ontario recently, there is a desire to have those course syllabi available at registration. And they're trying to build it into their registration tool. And even if it's just a historical example of a syllabus that's similar to what the current year will be, that would be quite valuable.
So work is underway, but still quite a bit of work left to be done.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Appreciate all the questions that you have put into the chat. We are at time. Thank you, Candace, so much for being here to answer questions from the audience. Really appreciate your presentation. And we will be putting the presentation slides as well as the video online after the fact. So thanks again for joining us. And we are going to take a 1-minute break, and then we are going to move into the next session called Using the Lost Momentum Model to Explore Barriers to Transfer in BC. So we'll see you in the next session. Thank you.